Gypsy-Rose Blanchard has revealed some jaw-dropping details in the epilogue of her new book, My Time to Stand. It's not just a look back at her complicated past, but a glimpse into her present and future, marked by a twist that feels almost too wild to be true. Gypsy shares that the 9th anniversary of her mother Dee Dee Blanchard's death coincided with the day she received her first sonogram for the baby she's expecting with her fiancé, Ken Arcuri. She believes this timing is no accident, seeing it as a cosmic message from her mother, a sign of forgiveness and a push to move forward. For years, June 10th was a day of grief and guilt for Gypsy, marked by painful memories and an overwhelming sense of loss. Behind prison walls, she would pray, cry, and try to connect with her mother, hoping for a sign of forgiveness. This year, everything changed. Now a free woman, a mother-to-be, and reunited with Ken, her first fiancé, Gypsy says the date has taken on a whole new meaning. She's leaving the darkness behind and embracing the joy of new beginnings. When her doctor's office scheduled her first sonogram for that fateful day, Gypsy couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just a coincidence. For her, the day that once symbolized tragedy has now become a celebration of life. She sees it as a way of balancing the scales, a sign that her mother may finally be at peace and that she too can find her own freedom. Gypsy reflects on the complicated relationship she shared with her mother, noting that despite everything, they were two sides of the same coin. Now, as she carries her mother's grandchild, she feels a sense of closure and connection she hadn't experienced before. The arrival of her baby, due in January 2025, feels like the ultimate sign of renewal and hope. For Gypsy, the timing of these events isn't just a coincidence. It's a way to redefine a date that had been shrouded in sadness for years. She believes it's her mother's way of telling her to forgive herself and move on, transforming June 10th into a day of light and possibility. This epilogue is more than just a personal reflection. It's a bold declaration of how Gypsy sees her story. She doesn't believe there are villains, not her mother and not herself. Instead, she sees their story as a complex and intertwined journey, one that has led her to this point of transformation. Now, with her divorce from Ryan Anderson filed and Ken by her side, Gypsy is ready for the next chapter of her life. As she prepares to become a mother, she's proving that even the darkest of stories can find redemption. It's a twist that leaves everyone talking. What do you think? Could this really be a message from Dee Dee, or is it just a coincidence? Gypsy-Rose Blanchard is back in the spotlight, and let me tell you, the tea is piping hot. In the epilogue of her memoir, Gypsy reflects on her tumultuous journey. But her closing remarks? Oh, they've got everyone talking, and not in a good way. Gypsy, who's gone from inmate to reality star, brunette to blonde, and newlywed to divorced, is now trying to find her balance in life while gearing up to become a mother. But as much as she's focusing on her future, she's dredging up her past in a way that's raising some serious eyebrows. In her book, Gypsy shares how she's trying to shed her negative image, saying she's tired of being boxed in as either a victim or a murderer. "I'm not a hero and I'm not a villain," she writes. Instead, Gypsy sees herself and her late mother, Dee Dee, as complex figures. She opens up about her mother's traumatic past, saying it's impossible to see her as purely good or evil. "Balance makes us human," Gypsy proclaims, framing her memoir as an attempt to reclaim her story from Hollywood's dramatization. But here's where things take a turn that's left readers feeling some type of way. Gypsy reveals she wrote the book not just to share her side of the story, but as a legacy for her unborn child. And then comes the bombshell. Gypsy says every choice she's ever made, good or bad, was with the hope of one day becoming a mother. Yes, including the murder of her own mother. Let that sink in. It seems like Gypsy is trying to shift the narrative, positioning herself as a woman who's experienced both victimhood and villainy, but in a way that feels a bit too convenient. She's painting herself as someone who's just as much a product of her circumstances as her mother was. But does that excuse her actions? Does making herself the both sides character in this story give her a free pass for what she did? Some fans are nodding along, saying, "Yes, we understand, Gypsy," while others are feeling uncomfortable with her attempts to rewrite history in her favor. And let's not forget the part where Gypsy talks about her legacy. She seems to be positioning this book not just as a tool for self-healing, but as a way to leave a mark on the world for her unborn child. This is where things get a little too much for some readers. The idea that she's using her past to justify every action she took in order to bring a child into the world is a lot to unpack. It's one thing to say you've made mistakes and now you're trying to do better. It's another thing to say, "I did all this to create life," while not fully acknowledging the consequences of your actions. It's raising eyebrows, and people are wondering if she's truly taking responsibility or if she's just manipulating her audience to buy into this twisted redemption arc. But let's not forget that Gypsy is still a human being. Sure, she's been through more than most of us could ever imagine, and she's trying to move on from a dark past. But what does it mean to live with such a heavy history? Is she really being as transparent and accountable as she claims? Or is she still struggling to find a way to justify her past? And here's the real kicker. As Gypsy gets ready to become a mother, what happens when her child inevitably starts asking questions about the past? Will Gypsy tell her the truth? Or will she continue to paint a narrative that makes her look like the victim, the misunderstood one who was just trying to survive? That's a conversation that's going to be beyond complicated for her. What's even more wild is the fact that Gypsy's not backing down. She's unapologetically telling the world how she feels, whether we agree with her or not. But here's the thing, it's clear that this whole finding balance thing is going to be a lifelong journey for Gypsy, from trying to reconcile her past to building a future for her growing family. It's all going to play out in the public eye, and that's a lot of pressure for anyone, let alone someone with her history. Now, let's unpack this because, honestly, it feels like Gypsy is putting an enormous weight on her unborn child's shoulders. By framing her actions, including the darkest ones, as all being for her future daughter, it's almost like she's trying to preemptively guilt her child into understanding and forgiving her. It's giving manipulative vibes, don't you think? Like, imagine growing up and being told, "Hey, I did all these things for you, so you better appreciate it." That's a lot to unpack for anyone, let alone a kid. It's no surprise that Gypsy's life has been under a microscope, especially after everything that went down with her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, and the shocking murder that rocked the world. But now, with her memoir in hand, she's telling her side of the story like never before. She's giving us a glimpse into how she's been grappling with her freedom, something she never imagined she'd have to contend with after spending so many years living under her mother's control. And while she's trying to find peace with her past, she's also trying to carve out a future for herself that doesn't define her by that horrific event. But here's where things really get messy. Gypsy doesn't just want sympathy. She's asking for understanding, and her message is loud and clear. She believes she was justified in everything she did because, in her eyes, it was all for the eventual purpose of becoming a mother. And I get it. Wanting to be a mother is a powerful driving force, but let's not forget the gravity of what she's implying here. That the death of her mother, the years of abuse, the manipulation, it was all part of the grand plan. Is that really the way to frame such a tragic and violent chapter of her life? Surely such violence will mar the stunning imagery left in her mind. Some people see this as Gypsy trying to take accountability, but others think it's just another way for her to deflect responsibility. Is she really owning up to her past, or is she trying to spin it in a way that makes her look like a martyr? And don't even get me started on how this could affect her child in the future. And that's a wrap for today's deep dive into Gypsy-Rose Blanchard's latest revelations. What do you think? Has she truly found balance? Or is she still trying to rewrite her past? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm super curious to hear what you all think. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss any of the latest gossip and updates. I'll see you in the next one, where we'll dive even deeper into the wildest stories you won't want to miss. Until then, take care, stay curious, and remember, there's always more to the story than meets the eye.